Hello and welcome to another episode of A Wicked Parley. I'm your host, Justin, and my lovely co-host.
Hello!
You know her as Rose.
No, they can call me Hello today.
They can call you Hello today. All right, yeah. So, welcome, Hello. Yeah. What a change in pace, So, today...
It's been a little bit.
Yeah, today brings an interesting topic. We're going to be discussing legacy.
Woo, woo.
And hopefully some of the things that kind of entail around it. It's going to be a fun conversation, guys, so hopefully come check us out. And if you're seeing this in the future, well, then know this. You missed an epic conversation. One that you will seek refuge and hope for Holy Spirits that we do it again. Because you'll have missed something so great. Hello, Jacket. Welcome back to the show. It's good to see you again.
Jacket, hello. It's been forever.
It has been forever, hasn't it? Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, as I'm sure you guys are aware, we missed last week's episode due to an unfortunate circumstance that could not possibly be avoided. I am sorry. It was kind of
We are
last minute.
terribly sorry. You have our sincere apologies
Yes.
from the team at A Wicked Parley.
Yeah,
However,
it will happen again in the future. I cannot promise you it won't happen, but what I will tell you is that I will sincerely feel bad when it does happen again.
yes.
But of course...
We like to do these live streams, so it makes
Yes.
us sad when we have to pause for something out of our control.
Indeed. And at the beginning of every single month, there is normally a weekly or monthly challenge, we should say.
Weekly, oh gosh. That would have made things kind of easier, but at the same time,
Yeah, it makes things so much easier. Be prepared that next week we will probably have a sort of mini discussion pertaining to the results of last month's challenge.
I'm so tired from it.
But this week we have a new Wheel of Challenge particular monthly challenge. And I have no idea what it is. I'm hoping it's something that's doable. I'm hoping that it's not
Hard
nothing.
same.
If it says no video games, just know this: I'm going to live on stream. That is the caveat for that particular thing.
Yes.
So, like, I will just be like, there's this 100%. Like, I will be on stream. 99%. It's actually that's not true. I mean, like, I do have
Okay,
to sleep
so
sometimes.
I will put another caveat for the food, for the like themed food stuff. I vote it starts on Monday, so that tomorrow you can actually go shopping for whatever.
Okay, fair enough. But let's see what it is first, and then we'll add the caveats. All right.
Okay.
Only
Yes,
because
each of these has their own caveats that is not listed.
reasonable caveats.
Reasonable, yes.
Reasonable caveats.
Oh God, oh no. No.
I don't think I could survive another month
God.
of like next to no sleep. There's no fucking way, and there's a. All right, there is a no. I can't do it. I can't.
No.
The
We had a
spirit
medical
is not
issue
even
due to the
willing.
first one on January.
Yeah, and I'm paying the consequences now for it. It's
Yep.
lovely.
No thanks.
Lovely.
All right, you ready for the pain? Hopefully not pain.
All right, yeah, come on, bring it on. Come on! No whammy! Come on! Shit! Wait a minute, hold on. What we got here? What the fuck?
Oh.
Off by one!
Yeah.
Anyways,
Off by one, but this one's not too terrible. This one is take one themed picture every day. And what it means by themed picture is... Okay, let me remove that.
Okay. What the fuck's a theme picture? What, do I have to wear a sombrero every day, or like...
No. So, one of these.
Oh,
So,
shit. Do we have to spin
every
for
day.
it?
Yes.
Spin it. What's the... So, every day we have to take it, whatever the hell this is. This is the thing we have to take a picture of?
Yes. I don't know.
This is the most easy thing ever.
Yes, you have to take a themed animal picture every day.
Now, let me ask you a question. Now, if I take a picture of Odin for 30 different pictures of Odin, but they all kind of look the same, like, does that count? I mean, like, he sleeps a lot.
He sleeps a lot.
Yeah, he's like a cinnamon roll most of the time, or a loaf of bread, or sometimes his paws are directly up with his head like kind of to the side and his like mouth kind of open with the tongue kind of rolling out to the side like a dog. But he's a cat.
Yeah, fair enough. I would say they can't be identical, but attempt like a different pose at least.
Oh, he's gonna be
or
mad.
At least or at least attempt a different location of where he decides to take his darn naps.
Okay, what about like a squirrel, bird? You know, like a neighbor's dog.
As long as it features an animal.
Okay, and what the hell are we gonna do with all these pictures? We're gonna make like a collage.
We can.
Are we gonna put it on Patreon? Or are we gonna put it on YouTube?
We'll think about that.
Okay. All right, you cheapskates.
Oh my gosh.
I'm joking. I do not mean that. I do not mean that. I kind of mean that.
Oh god.
I'm joking.
Chill, buddy, chill.
I'm joking. I'm being silly. They know I'm being silly. Relax. It's fine.
Can never relax.
That's true. You gotta be on your nerves. You never know when I'm gonna do something just crazy, like jump out a window. Whoa! Okay. Anyways.
Now that I think about it, I do have to put that thing back. Okay, it is back. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was just one of the many themes, as you saw from the second wheel.
Dear Lord. Okay. Sounds great. Okay. Good. So we now have to take a theme picture of an animal every day. And
yes.
We'll have a collage of some kind at some point in the future.
So for that one, do you want to go ahead and start it tomorrow, or do we want to go ahead and start on Monday, since it's not like completely you need to go out of your way to do something to prepare for it?
I mean, I would say, like, let's do it tomorrow.
What's an anti-challenge?
Add an anti-challenge to the wheel of every Patreon
for every Patreon.
An anti-challenge is a good. Okay, all right. Elaborate on this. And here's the thing: if you suggest this, you have to join Patreon, and I know who's on Patreon right now.
Yes, we do know who's on Patreon. So I'm very. So we'll go ahead and start with this monthly challenge tomorrow.
Yes.
And then best part is I do have a photo editing software. I'm not good at it. I'm like decent at it.
Yeah, okay, stop. Yeah, everybody at home, she's fucking awesome at it. All right, she's just trying to be like, nah, it's not gonna be great. You're gonna see it, and you'll be like, oh my god, it's fucking amazing. Like that's what it's gonna be. But anyways, enough with the semantics. Let's get into the episode. It's 7 minutes in, and we haven't even started talking about Legacy yet. So
look, we are very concerned about monthly challenge. Anyway.
Oh yeah, I would say over concerned considering the damage that I have done myself to the first one, and
the first two were absolutely Don't know. Pick up a minute.
All right, Jacket. That's not an explanation. That is an activity.
Yeah.
Like,
so
if you're saying
need a bit more.
Yeah, you're gonna need a bit more. Yeah, a bit more.
Like what? Try a little harder. Like what's your definition of an anti-challenge? We'll be looking for that in the comments because we really do need to get started.
Yeah, let's go ahead and start. Okay, so for you guys who had the patience to make it 8 minutes in before talking about the subject, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and talk about what is a legacy. What is a legacy?
Yes.
Now, the first thing that may come to your guys' mind is this something that I think is a lot of people would have, and that typically is children. Like this is usually like parents, like their legacies is children, families. Sometimes it's certain values. Maybe you're a lawmaker and you're like leaving behind something that takes care of or supports a group of people. A lot of things can take the form of legacies is the true answer. I don't think there's any one thing that you can nail down and point to that this is strictly legacy. I think that the key idea behind legacies is it's something that is left behind, that is present when you are no longer around, that provides something to someone. It can be a piece of art. It could be a park bench. It could be a child. Like I mentioned before, it could be any number of things. But there's a couple things that I kind of wanted to ask, and I want to ask the viewers if you want to talk about it. If you answer any of the questions, feel free, and we'll read them in the chat. And Rose.
Yeah.
Or hello today. I mean, like it could be that too. And
yes.
I also have some questions for you. I'm sure you have some for me too. But
yeah, a couple here and there.
Yeah. The first question I kind of would like to say is that, do you feel like you ever want to leave behind a legacy of some kind?
Like, if I had to go based off the examples, you listed off already,
Yeah.
I'm still kind of on the fence about the whole family thing.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's just like, if adopting kind of counts, then
Yeah.
potentially, assuming I meet the qualifications for adoption, because as we've discussed before, just on a random topic extraordinaire, adopting's an interesting process.
Yeah, it is an interesting thing.
Goodness, like who? But like, if I had to do something that is left behind after I'm gone, I think if I had to pick something, like if assuming I had to leave one,
Hmm.
I think it'd be kind of, I'd want to make an impact on my future students.
Mm. That's a good one. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's like, students, especially like, in future generations, they're going to be picking up our messes,
Aren't we all?
to say the least. Like like our generation is currently picking up the messes from the previous generation.
Hmm.
The next generation is going to pick up our messes, and so on and so forth.
True.
If we, don't leave a strong foundation, oh God. Oh gosh.
I mean, creating a plan, of secession, like so that way,
Yeah.
like,
And then having it stick.
yeah. Please follow
Gotta make
this.
sure it sticks.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I
I don't know.
personally, I personally
Yeah.
do want to leave a legacy behind.
Okay.
I don't know what it exactly would entail.
Hmm.
I'm also on the fence about the whole family thing.
Okay, okay.
We were just so you guys know, there's an episode that might come out at some point in the future where we might take a whole look at the adoption plan situation thing for the United States because families are important and sometimes adoption is the only way some people can have families. And so, like, anyways, that might be a topic we talk about in the future. But we also kind of like discussed certain things that kind of like pertain to other things. And as I mentioned prior, there are a lot of forms to take on legacies. I think for
Yeah.
me, the biggest legacy I would want to leave behind is I would want to leave something that is accessible to everybody. I
Okay.
do like the idea of like of a really comfortable park bench, like that just says Justin was here, donated and provided for by the estates of Justin. I would 100% be on board with something like that. I mean, hell, even if I was alive and I just walked by, I'm like, oh, that Justin guy's pretty cool, isn't he? You're like, oh, this park bench is really comfortable.
Yeah, sit on your own bench.
I would 100% do something like that. I don't know. Like, I'm silly like that, so, like, that, I feel like
That's fair.
that's something I can see myself doing, but, because, like, I don't see myself as an artist, so, like, if I create some, like, stick figure mutilated thing, like, you're not, you're not
Kind of like,
exactly,
yeah, ain't no way in heck I'm reaching the thing on the bottom left.
no, that's pretty cool, though. I ain't gonna
That
lie.
is cool. That's in Harlem.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Hmm.
But I mean, I think that like leaving behind anything that would be construed as a legacy is probably a good thing
Okay.
for just anybody in general because it means that like it gives your presence in the world a little bit of meaning. As I think that a lot of times people work really hard in their lives and they don't really get the recognition that they probably deserve. And because of this, we sometimes can feel lost or we can feel
Mm.
inadequate. And I think that like being able to find alternatives to allow yourself to do this, that it gives you meaning that's important to you, is something that I think everybody should try to do. Or at least, and then I guess the other way to say it about this too is that I guess if it's important to you, there are certainly people in the world who don't really care. They are here and they're like, I am living life. I'm doing what I need to do. I don't need to be remembered. You know.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. Oh,
Um,
the list earlier.
yeah.
It did come up with a quick question. It's just like kind of, why do you think, certain things count as legacies, but like, others don't? Such as you mentioned, like automatically, park bench or
Hmm.
something like, why is something like that a legacy and not something else?
Ooh, I mean that's a good question.
Like, hmm,
I think the answer probably is going to be contingent on a few factors that you might need to kind of like dress up a little bit.
uh-huh.
I think the first factor is that what culture are we talking about? what kind of values are important to the individual, and what exactly is contributing to that person's idea of legacy. Because like everyone kind of has a different build up.
Yeah.
I mean, like, as Jacket is mentioning currently in the chat, about having a picture of a giant steak, completing a challenge. Like, first of all, Jacket, that's fantastic. I hope that you really do that someday, and I want to see the photo because that's fucking great. but
that is great. Have just like the video and just like watch the mayhem.
Tear into it. Hell yeah. Only question you gotta ask yourself is how much water and how much sauce, if any at all.
That thing better be seasoned well.
For real.
Because it's like that's a lot of steak.
Yeah, it is. It's like a whole cow.
Yeah. So it depends on the culture. That I can definitely agree with that because everybody has their own definition of legacy. Like for me, it was like for me when we were discussing this episode, before we actually aired it.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was some like story or important item or, intent left behind by, generation to generation type of scenario.
Yeah, I mean, and it can be. I want to be very clear. It can be. It doesn't have to be what I'm saying.
It's just one form of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like I was saying before, like the most important element of what classifies as a legacy is something that directly impacts future generations after you're no longer present. And no longer present doesn't mean you died. It just means you're no longer in the immediate area to take advantage of whatever you're leaving behind. Like, one of the most common legacies that people leave behind are like trust funds.
Oh.
Where they basically like they establish maybe like a certain amount of wealth, and then that wealth accrues in interest, and then the interest pays out to certain like beneficiaries, or perhaps even the money is donated to certain, we'll say, I mean, any sort of like good work in the world, building homes for people who don't have it, maybe disaster relief, various charities, those kinds of things can all potentially have that. And so, yeah, that's another form of legacy that we didn't really talk about too much so far, but yeah, like I said, like it's what's important, right? What do you think is important? Do you think providing like a jacket, or like a warm, glove to people who are impoverished or
I think it kind of delves. It kind of almost sounds like it delves into, the morals of a person, too.
It can. I mean, certainly this can definitely touch on that, too. I mean, I don't want to go, like, too far into the serious tones as well, because I also want to, like, highlight that, like, an example of other forms of legacy that exist, could be, like, we could talk about, like, Star Wars and George Lucas's, creation, while he did sell it to Disney. But it doesn't change the fact he created it, and so in some ways you could say Star Wars was his legacy. And you could say the same thing about
whenever you hear the name, immediate thought.
Yeah, exactly. You create an association. Steven Spielberg. You could think about like obviously George Lucas. You could think about. Oh my God, what's his name? I'm blanking on it right now. Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek. Star Trek. It's I mean, like it's just like there's a whole bunch of just certain things like that you can create that don't necessarily have to fit in the financial or like a park bench, or children or whatever. They can be more, I guess, ephemeral. They can be temporary. They can be long lasting. They can be anything and anything you'd want them to be and more. Like there's not a fixed like label for it. So yeah, that's the reason why I wanted to know the parameters, because I think that would speak a lot about potentially answering that question.
Yeah. Now that we're talking about like the things left behind or in people's names, I'm just like thinking, what happens to the people that inherit those things or have to follow up? It's just like, is there a lot of pressure to, follow in the predecessors, footsteps, or is there a lot of pressure to, make your own path rather than be a copycat? I'm just like, hold on.
You're talking about like standing, how to stand out of the shadow of the people whom came before you.
Yeah, it's just like, are you, what are the expectations on those people? Are they expected to, follow in the footsteps and become even greater? Are they expected to, break out and into new territory? I'm just like, oh gosh, the more famous you are, the more pressure there is.
I mean, I think that is an effect, but I don't think it's a rule. I think at the end of the day, one of my favorite quotes from any movie is from Back to the Future, and it's, the future isn't set, so make your future a good one, kind of thing. Like from Back to the Future 3. That is, it's a really important thing, because I think that people who are stuck in the shadow of like a father or, a successful sibling or a grandparent, or hell, just like a family member in general who succeeded, and like you carry like their name. Like imagine like some of the people who are associated with the Kennedys. Like imagine like the amount of pressure and like the idea that you come from this background, so you must have these things. It's like, I mean, I can get where you're kind of coming from, but I think that's a little bit different than talking about a legacy, because at the end of the day, a legacy, well, it could be enshrouded in this kind of stuff. I think more often than not, at least my thought process on it is that
fair enough.
It's something that's left behind that you can use, and I'm not necessarily sure that fame, is something that can be used. I think it certainly has the opportunity to present that, but I could also seeing it be not something that aids, but being an obstacle to overcome.
Yeah, something that, should probably be left behind, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, like, let's look at it in a monetary perspective for just a second. Let's come back to monetary for a second. I think Jackie Chan has said that he's leaving no money for his children, like none.
Oh.
Because he wants them to work hard and work their way up to be able to succeed on their own. And so, like, I think it would be fair to at least guess that he probably thinks that like legacy is the fact, like if he was looking at legacy and the idea of children, legacy is the fact that they were born, and that by giving them wealth he would create entitlement, which would halter their ability to grow and succeed as people.
Fair enough.
So, I think if you're going to leave behind a legacy, leave behind instructions for how it can be used. That's the reason why I think the idea, if you're going to leave money behind as a legacy, it definitely needs to be planned out in such a way that it doesn't create harm, or it has at least a chance at trying not to create harm. But I mean, like certain legacies that I certainly enjoy are like certain like photos and certain pictures and things like that. Like there's a really, really awesome picture that is called Starry Night. That's world famous. Yeah, one of my favorite astrophysicists is absolutely in love with that particular piece of artwork, and I think it's awesome. It's wonderful. It's something that inspires curiosity in people, and certainly inspires curiosity in me. And so, in some ways, it can be construed as a legacy because it's something that is going to affect people, hopefully for many generations to come.
Hopefully. Huh. All right. That is quite the.
I know, right?
Quite the comment to leave off on.
I know, right? I'm sorry. I left you in a very difficult pickle to kind of go with.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I'm just debating, what to ask next.
Yeah, I got you.
It's like,
Let's see what has Jack got to say. Let's see here. Alfred Nobel wanted to leave a lasting legacy, so he funded the Nobel Peace Prize.
He also created dynamite.
Yeah, hey. I mean, can you imagine if what's his name? Oppenheimer, who was basically in charge of a lot of the Trinity testings that developed the atomic bomb. You imagine if he left behind a Peace Prize?
Yeah.
Or something analogous. You got the Oppenheimer award. You're like, can I reject that? Like, do I want that?
Do I really? Just, oh boy.
Oh man, it reminds me of like the Fields Medal. You know what that is?
Mm-hmm. No.
It's the most prestigious award you can get in mathematics.
Okay.
And it's only awarded once every 4 years, and it's one of the most coveted things you can possibly have. Like, people will work their entire lives just to try and get this thing, right?
Gosh almighty.
I know, right? I mean, and like, I find it kind of hilarious that most people don't know about that, but we know about the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, like, it does say something about the lasting legacy and the allure of money. Like, so, I mean, hey, it is what it is.
Gosh, that's one way it affects the community, huh?
That's for sure.
Oh gosh. Speaking of community, how do you think like certain legacies affect the community around like is because of the people, the location, potentially the emotions attached to it? Hmm. Like how does a legacy just affect the community as a whole?
That's a great
What do you
question.
think? Like there are like, some legacies are considered good, some of them are considered bad, depending on who the heck you ask.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's gonna vary from
Oh,
from community to community, from location to location, from people to people, right? I think that in most cases, the way it affects communities is ultimately how does it impact things one way or another. I mean, let's take the example of Star Wars, right?
mhm.
For a very long time, the first three Star Wars movies were considered an absolute masterpiece, right? The
Yeah.
fans loved it. The fans were begging for more Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
Begging more Star Wars. And then they get more Star Wars, and they're like, "This isn't Star Wars."
What the heck is this?
It split the fan base. Some people liked it, some people didn't, right?
Yeah.
But I was one of the people that I mean, I would say I'm too young to know the original three when they were new, by a long shot, by way more than a decade. I wasn't even a twinkle in my dad's eye. It's very much I have no association with the original ones as new. So new Star Wars to me were the prequels. And
Okay.
and so I saw them, I was like, they're entertaining, but they weren't like, oh my god. I personally, the Lord of the Rings films were far superior in entertaining and shaped my viewpoint on things, than the Star Wars movies did. So, but in a lot of ways, I would say that the legacy element, right?
Yeah.
It changes, right? So, if you were to look at Star Wars before the prequels, the community that enjoyed those movies thought it was a masterpiece, was extremely happy, right? And then future generations came along and enjoyed those movies and thought they were great too, right? And then these prequels come along and it divides the fan base, and they're like, well, maybe these aren't the perfect movies they once were, right? And so by the time it wraps up, people are like, eh. And then, obviously Disney starts making their own Star Wars stuff, right? And then people go, those prequels, they weren't that bad after all in comparison to this garbage. And so it stopped being about the specific movies as much as it was more the characters that were associated with the franchise. And that's what became the legacy. So what a legacy is might change over time. The way it is viewed might change over time, and it's a little unpredictable. And so I think that if if we're talking about it, clearly it must have a positive force. Otherwise, it would be effectively disregarded at some point. It would stop being. It would eventually become yesterday's old news, and we're done with it. But that's not the case. So I think that it just kind of depends. Definitely in the case of oh my god, I can speak.
Can you?
Philanthropic ventures.
Uh-huh.
That have a legacy element to it, where somebody may be passed on, but they have left behind funds that are then awarded to certain people who do certain things. Those particular things, I think that they do have a benefit. I genuinely do think they have a benefit. I don't know exactly what those things are necessarily, but I think that it makes communities strive for whatever they're set out to do, and hopefully those things that are set out to do are to make things better. And most people who have achieved some semblance of success in life can appreciate that particular thing and are likely to propagate that particular ethos or something analogous to it.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So, in essence, my genuine response is, I would imagine that in most cases, legacies that are long-lasting typically are received by communities positively, and as long as those legacies impart something that is not harmful, they are perpetuated for as long as they feasibly make sense.
Fair enough.
And that's my best guess at that question. But know this. I am not a professional. Like, I don't know 100%. I'm going to give my honest impression, my opinion about this, but I am sure there are people out there who do not share this opinion and would want to fight me with words and potentially fisticuffs over this. In which case, I take on the challenge. I shall crush all.
No, stop.
Okay, I stop. But what I mean is that, like, I think that, like, you know, I'm not an expert in any of this stuff, so, like, if you have a different opinion, you know, it's okay, and you should be free to express that. So if you do have a difference of opinion about this, feel free to talk about it in the chat, or feel free to drop a comment or email the show.
We'd love to debate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even say debate. I would just want to hear somebody out. You know, I mean, if you have a different perspective about this, I'd like to understand what it is. You know, and potentially ask some questions if people are open to it. But if they're not, it's okay. And Jacket,
nothing wrong with it.
I see the Darwin Award thing. Shame on you.
Lord.
Shame on you, Jacket. Shame. We should never allow people to get awards for being dumbasses. That is saved for America's Funniest Film Videos. I'm sorry.
I mean, those are just funny, not like I want to, like, wring somebody's neck.
Yeah, but, you know, you ever watch that and you're like, I really want to see what happens when someone takes this, like, a step further. It's like you see the person with the firecrackers on skates, and they're, like, on, like, you know, a downhill trajectory. You just kind of want to see it, just, you know, but what's the next level, you know? I want to see some Acme, you know, Coyote and Roadrunner shit going on. Anyways, let's get back to the topic at hand.
Not yet?
Yes, let's go ahead and do that. Right. So, let me ask you a question, Rose, since you've been kind enough to ask a few questions of your own. You know, why do you think legacy is important? And specifically, why might legacy be important to you?
Why is it important to me, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you could say generally why it might be important, but I want to know particularly, like, wherever your opinion about this comes from. And usually people who pull from personal experience typically showcase this, because I have a suspicion about the answer to this.
Okay. For why it's important to me, it's kind of, you know, one of the connections to those from the past type of scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's not really, I think, of the material versions of legacies. I think more of the stories and emotions attached to them.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of connect me to those people in the past in a way that materials can't do. Like, material legacies is a different type of, you know, emotional feeling and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what it is. So for me, it's more of that connection to the past that, for me, needs a lot of work, because, boy, if I do not write it down, I will forget it eventually. Like, it's not even like a long eventually. It will be a short, what happens next week eventually.
You know, I am actually really glad you said that, because the thing that I was going to touch on, that my suspicion was, that most people's ability to connect for the importance of legacy has to do with connection. It is making a connection with someone is what makes a legacy so important. Humans, as I'm sure everyone knows, are social creatures. All right, we 100%, we thrive, we live and die on our social interactions. You know, a lifelong, one continuous happy day will make a person live, you know, a very long time in comparison to someone who has a miserable, horrible existence. And so like I think like that's something that's important when talking about legacies is that it's our way of being able to reach out and connect with other people and really go the extra mile.
All right, that does sound nice.
Yeah,
we are a social being.
Indeed.
Oh goodness.
I mean, also, I mean, think about this. Like, I mean, in the case of most instances of legacy, right? They're usually intimately connected to either family or communities.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't have either without connection.
No. A lot of connection and a lot of emotion attached to it.
You could definitely make that statement. I think emotions speak strongly of like the need to develop a legacy in the first place.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think like those who, intentionally leave a legacy, do you think it's more, fashion toward, having family remember you? Do you think it'd be, something more as a speck of pride? Or could it just be something as simple of you want to be famous, so why not? I mean, there are some people, right?
Sure. I mean, I think
there's got to be a handful that just wanted to be famous for the heck of it.
For sure. Here's the thing. I think that it starts off, first of all, by perspective. But I also think that, like, as you get older, you kind of, like, your priorities change. Like, I mean, I give an example. When I was younger, I thought I'd live forever. I thought I was invincible. I wanted to do everything and anything, and I didn't really think about money, how I was going to do it, consequences, like, etc., right? And then, life starts to hit you a little hard, and you start to learn things, right? And so it changes, like, what is important to you. And I think that a lot of people start off probably a little selfish, not because they're, like, trying to be mean, but it's all they really know. It's what they want, what makes them happy. And then later in life, sometimes people will, get connection, and they'll meet somebody, and maybe they have a family, or maybe they don't, but they just are part of a group of people, and it gives their life special meaning. And suddenly, what matters isn't themselves necessarily. It's making sure that the people that they are around are supported and happy. And so, like, I think that, like, as you get older, you probably get a little more selfless. And so, a lot of times, I think that when people think about legacy, they're kind of like halfway through their life, maybe even further down that road. Fewer summers ahead than whatever we want to say that saying. And then I think that kind of mindset's going to change the way they are going to approach answering that question. I think what was it like on a good lifespan, you have like something close to like 36,000 days, like to live. Like that's if you live like 100 years, something like that. Mm-hmm. And I think that most people probably get through about, I don't know, halfway through that figure, roughly, and before they start thinking about something like this in the first place. And I think that, like, well, I mean, when I say thinking about it, I mean like thinking about it to the point where they might actually act on it. I mean, people think about a bunch of things throughout their life. Like it's that's the beautiful thing about us. We're conscious creatures that can, think and dream and wonder about all sorts of things. But I genuinely believe that people who act on this particular thing, who create a plan, usually are at least halfway through their life before they start really doing something about it, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you're not going to be in your 20s being like, I dedicate this park bench to me.
It's like, you okay? Do you need checkup or anything?
Yeah, I know, right? Like,
you doing okay?
Do you got an undiagnosed, imminent disease? Like,
it's like, is something the matter? Do you need to? Why are you leaving a legacy at like age 20? That's a little young, don't you think?
I here dub the bench Justin's bench. This is my legacy. Enjoy my bench. Imagine being like 20 and coming back when you're 40 and your bench has been destroyed. Like, you're like, my legacy!
Oh gosh.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Like when it comes down to it, though, boiling down to it, I genuinely believe that a person's emotional state, a person's mindset, is going to be directly linked to any decision they make. And I think when that decision is made is going to impact the way in which it's going to be viewed. And I think the older you are, the higher the chance that it's going to be more selfless in nature and less selfish.
Okay.
Yeah. Social psychology, folks. Read books. They do exist.
Read books. They do exist. Go touch some dead wood.
Yeah, go touch some dead wood and make sure to pat that green stuff outside every now and then. And if you're in the state of California, perhaps give it a few weeks. Because it might be a little damp.
just a wee bit, and not like the morning dew type of damp.
No, like the get washed away or
kind
buried
of
in snow.
Flash flood type of thing.
Yeah, be careful of that. That's yeah. Anyways,
okay.
I guess I want to get to the wrap up for this evening, and so I want to ask one final question that I've kind of touched a little bit on already, and this is for the chat too, so feel free to go ahead and respond. But Rose, please respond, as well.
Absolutely not. Anyway.
Are you sure about that? You don't want to? Okay, we can just end the show now. It's like, okay, I guess we're done now, right? No. My last question is what happens? What do you think happens when a legacy that is created gets destroyed? Like truly, and I don't mean like in a joking way, like the park bench example. I mean like, do you think that like if a legacy is destroyed, that you've done irreparable damage to the human race, and can it be fixed, or is it just something that happens and that it's okay and it's part of the process?
For me, it's kind of happens because, legacies, depending on how long it's existed and how well it's documented, it's like, why was this created and for what reasons? Depending on how that's documented, emotions can change.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's just like, a thing that's been made a legacy looks good for maybe like a decade, 2 decades. Maybe 3 decades later, it's like, oh, this was actually terrible. Like, I can't think of an example, but I'm sure at least one exists.
All right, well, I'm going to tell you right now, the park bench thing, 100%. Like, that has probably happened to every park in just about everywhere at least once.
So it's just like, that brings up the question of why was it destroyed? Was it just because somebody wants to destroy it?
Vandalize.
And if that's if somebody wants to vandalize it, then there's going to be some anger, there's going to be some issues, there's going to be some sadness, and it could potentially be, fixed depending on what the damage was. Was it like destroyed into itty bitty tiny little chunks that a puppy could eat? Or it's just like, was it just like spray painted on that you can just remove? Well, yeah, it's expensive, but you can remove it.
I don't know. All I will say is this: if you're gonna make a legacy of a park bench, don't make it out of wood. Steel. No, not steel. Stone. Stone.
Gosh.
It will very likely be harder to remove. And better yet, reinforce steel with concrete. Make it really permanent, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I really thought about this park bench idea.
I have. I want to make the most comfortable one I possibly can. I recognize it's got to be out of stone, all right? So this is already going to make it extremely difficult, but it is still possible. Because the way I have it figured is that this park bench is going to be just an absolute obstruction, all right? We're talking like, I'm going to get dug 100 feet down. It's going to have a giant core. So you can't just smash it off and remove. This is not like I'm just going to just wrap my truck around this and just pull it out, This is a very much if you want to get rid of this thing, it is a whole operation.
Kind of Mission Impossible, this stuff.
Yeah, and then at the very end of the sign, in the ground 100 feet, you pull it out and say, "This was not meant to be removed. Return bench to where it was at before, or you shall feel the full bad voodoo of Justin. You have been cursed."
Goodness gracious.
I know, right? It's just awful. Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and leave it here. I'm gonna go ahead and curse everybody.
And you're getting a curse.
Yeah,
And you're getting a curse.
exactly.
Everybody's
getting a curse. You know what I'm saying? Like you fuck with Justin's bench, you get cursed. All right. Well, this has been a great episode. I really enjoyed it. I stay tuned for more cool episode topics in the future, and be looking out for the explanation of what happens when you only sleep for about 7 hours in a week. She knows. All right. We'll see you all in the next one. Have a great evening, and we'll see you next Saturday. Till then, stay safe and think about your legacy.